Mr. Dame Dash into the Eddie, Dr. Chris, Apostle Pastor Passion. We're here because of this very big moment where we're battling a great deal of misinformation against science. And the blessing was that Tucker Carlson, who has the #1 show on Fox, basically called out Dr. Apostle Chris, called you out by name after you had spoken on MSNBC. How do you feel about that, Dr. Chris, about being called out by Tucker Carlson?
It's a blessing because I always like a good fight, especially when we're fighting for lives, especially when we're fighting for the well-being of communities, all Americans. It's for us to go toe-to-toe with the Goliaths. And so to say, so when Tucker Carlson called me out, I said, you rang, ask about me. Very happy.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Dash. I just don't look, I read. And, you get a lot of comments on your wall, and people accuse you of agreeing with the people who are against the black and brown community because you did get the vaccine. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm a logical man. And I really trust Dr. Chris. And I, you and I talk, I play a lot of life chess, not checkers. So I look at all angles. So number one, I know Dr. Chris, she's unapologetic about the truth, and we, even when the truth doesn't behoove us, like one could say that saying that Jesus is a European interpretation of the name and you should be calling him Yahshua is a conspiracy, or it's militant to everything else. It's like in one of those things. But you're actually going against, what usually, we're usually against the people that are oppressing us. If you're going to say that what they're saying is right, or at least that it's the safest option, I'm going to have to listen to it. So I was able to do the research and talk to Dr. Chris. She broke it down in a very medical way. I'm diabetic. And even if it wasn't, let's say any of the conspiracy was right, I was willing to be that guinea pig for my family, And then when I'm seeing, and then when I'm seeing that in this very moment, everyone that's getting sick is unvaccinated.
That's right.
It doesn't seem like, a conspiracy, but it seems like a conspiracy the other way around in this instance. So again, as a man that plays chess, I'm like, number one, whenever there's a secret, nobody knows about it before. Whenever an agenda is really pushed, it's always pushed to manipulate. And I understand algorithms. I saw how Trump got elected and how a lot of misinformation got spread. When someone wants to hear a conspiracy, your phone knows that, and they just keep giving you more stupid conspiracies and ads come up. So it's just a hustle, really. And again, I would think if I was like a real evil genius, I'd be like, I'd make a disease. I'd make it with black people. It hits them the hardest. Then I'd put out a bunch of conspiracy to say that because of the stuff that happened before, don't take it now. But again, the thing that's boggling my mind about the whole situation, well, number one, I want to address the Tucker Carlson thing. When I heard what he said, I understood what was going on because whenever I say something that's about enlightening and evolving us and making us live in harmony, they try to make everybody scared of me, And I was like, Dr. Chris must really be hitting the nerve. She must be sounding really smart because they're going to try to discredit you with fear and try to trigger us. Because when we defend ourselves fearlessly, almost where we overdo it on you. But that's only to defend the intelligent and the love that we're trying to display. So I'm like, she must really be getting listened to. But on another level, I hope he did his research because, it's the commission. It's not just her. It's all of us. So when they talking about Dr. Chris, it's like you talking about a senator who's Senator Andre Carson and a congressman, you know. I mean, Senator Eddie Milton and a Congressman Andre Carson and a bunch of, you know. So I would just wanted to just talk it out and really understand the play, you know. But I would definitely challenge and love to see an intellectual conversation with him on you or any one of us. But understanding that nobody's trying to say we want somebody hurt. We're saying let's live in harmony, but let's live with the truth. So congratulations, because you must be hitting the nerve, Dr. Chris.
That's right. I just want to add something to that really quickly. What we have actually seen during this pandemic, you hit the nail spot on the head. We've seen a proliferation of disinformation and misinformation like never before when it comes to public health. There had already been a movement that was afoot prior to coronavirus. But that movement around anti-science, that movement around anti-public health, that movement around anti-Black bodies has become hyperbolic during this pandemic. And it is necessary. It is absolutely imperative for those of us who have a love of community, a love of this nation, and understand the public health science and the data that we speak up. I have a dear colleague, Dr. Peter Hotez. I've been on MSNBC with him. I've been on CNN with him. He's being attacked. And he's being attacked by bots. He's being attacked by trolls because what we are speaking is not an agenda. It's an open book. It's science and it's transparent. That's why when Tucker Carlson called me out by name, when he said my name and questioned my credentials, I knew what time it was. And I was more than willing and ready and game. Remember, I signed up for a coronavirus vaccine trial. I signed up. I run into fires.
But also say that you were fighting front line.
That's right.
You saw what it was doing. You was like out there with everybody, and you were willing to be that guinea pig for our culture, for who we love.
I was willing to go through the science. I was willing to do it. And I did it knowing that it would not just benefit me. Look, I lost my father.
But what I don't understand is why does that make you a racist? And I didn't hear nothing that you said racist. And why does your credentials get questioned behind that?
Exactly. Because I'm a Black woman.
Let me ask you something, Dr. Chris. President Biden, he said social media platforms are killing people with misinformation. You agree with that?
I definitely agree with that. We saw even in the election of President Trump how social media was being used as a tool to even scare, quote unquote, scare Black voters. Black voters were being targeted through social media with things that were not true so that they would not go to the ballot box during the previous presidential election. So social media, while it is a platform that can have benefits, that can be used to spread information and to empower people, to increase efficacy and literacy, it also is a platform where there isn't enough accountability. And there are flat out lies. That's disinformation. The willful propagation of lies, the willful propagation of anti-science material that can be easily disproven. And Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the social media corporations need to do something about it.
Senator Eddie, do you see an increase in where you are?
Just like a lot of red states, we're starting to see our numbers go up, right? I want to backtrack real quick. I got to acknowledge a few things, right? Over the last year and a half, I think we, as a collective, everybody that's on this platform right now, we've experienced a lot of fight, a lot of turmoil, a lot of things that impact our families directly. And as a policymaker, as a legislator, when my community had questions, when we didn't know what was next, when it came down to how we were going to deal with the pandemic, I had to go into session and prepare for that. And also prepare my community when it came down to the conversations around taking the vaccination. And the first person I called was Dr. Chris. Dr. Chris came on, we facilitated, a conversation with the Urban League of Northwest Indiana, the NAACP of Gary, Indiana, and we talked about it. And this wasn't any misinformation. This was data. This was facts. And this was information that she gave our community, not to force or to convince, but to educate them to make a decision on what they want to do in regards to vaccination for themselves and for their families. And like Dame just mentioned, as we're seeing numbers go up, it's more likely individuals that have not been vaccinated that we're seeing. So I think what I feel personally is that we're at a precipice right now. We're at the cusp of the direction that the country is going to go in, where you have a side of individuals that's trying to over-politicize this, sensationalize this, so we can get folks to feel like our spokespeople in our community are discredited and we can't listen to them, we can't receive that information, and that's simply not the truth. So that's why I wanted to come on today to show my love and support for Dr. Chris and all that she's done for Black America, right? Sacrificing her time, sacrificing her energy and effort to make sure we are educated as a people, not just Black America, but America.
Yes.
World.
Right. Yes.
We just got to make sure that we protect our own, we step up and we speak out, and we get justice taking place.
That's
Thank
powerful.
you, my brother.
Yes.
Thank you.
I tell you, sitting ahead of you, the future, man.
Yes,
I mean,
you are.
now-
You're the present and the future.
and from my perspective, I'm very. We got the congressman.
Congressman, how are you?
Please, commission.
Congressman.
Hey, Mr. Blessing.
Honored to
Bishop, Apostle Pastor, good to see everybody.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
Good to see you. You know, we see all of this as answered prayer. You know, it's like, you know, somebody calling out Muhammad Ali. So, you know, we're gonna make them say our name. It's not Cassius Clay.
You
You
know.
know, you're gonna say Muhammad Ali, and you're gonna respect my faith. You're gonna respect my religion. And
That's
until
right.
you do, you get hit right in the mouth until you say it. So
You already
I
know.
take it as a great blessing when my family from East Orange, my family that now resides in Newark, Montclair, and Short Hills, is called out by Tucker Carlson. I just view that as a blessing, you know, and so forth.
Yes.
And we know that with Mr. Dash, everybody, that we know we're at the forefront of fighting these things. But Dr. Chris, how do you come up against people saying that you are supporting the white man or supporting the white agenda by pushing the quote-unquote white vaccine, even though there were so many black and brown faces that authorship?
What makes racism insidious is that racism operates like a system, and racism operates at multiple levels. Racism operates among institutions. Racism operates among individuals, but racism is also internalized. And what is very unfortunate, and this is where it is so necessary for those in the scientific community who are also Black, who are also Latino, who are also Asian American, who are also Native American and the indigenous populations, that we speak up, because racism is internalized. And when people say, oh, you're pushing the white man's agenda. Look, I've heard that before. I heard that when I finished college at Princeton University. A white man didn't take those tests and write those papers. I did, this Black woman. I heard that when I went to medical school at Duke and I finished there with honors. A white man didn't achieve that. I have since been boarded in public health and preventive medicine. We have to stop attributing our excellence. We have to stop attributing our success. We have to stop attributing where we are dominant to this larger systemic system, which is racism. Black people have been at the forefront of discovery and innovation since the beginning of time. Okay, let's take us back to the cradle of civilization, which is Africa. Black people were at the forefront of building this vaccine. Let's talk about Dr. Corbin, a Black woman who is now a professor at Harvard. Very, very sought after. Let's talk about the Black physician scientists and other scholars who who stepped forward, who examined the data, who work at the FDA, who are independent from the FDA. Let's talk about those of us who participated in the coronavirus vaccine trials. Let's talk about those of us who are elected officials, like the congressman, like Senator Melton. Let's talk about those of us who are moguls, who are influencers, like Mr. Dash. Let's talk about those of us who are titans of the faith, like Bishop. It is time that we recognize and validate the integrity of our intellectualism. So when people say to me, you're pushing the white man's agenda or you're pushing the white man's vaccine, I say, you're flawed. Your logic is flawed. And so I am of the utmost conviction to speak directly into the heart of my community and my people, and to speak to all people. Bishop, you know, there isn't a community that I won't speak to. I speak to Tucker Carlson's audience.
Yeah. Can we play the original clip from MSNBC real quick? See what Doc actually said.
Ask you. I mean, there's still so many conspiracy theorists out there, and I'm like increasingly disconcerted by some of the people who are sharing these. Big Boy from Outkast just shared a video from an older black woman saying, you know, don't get the vaccine. The second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, was at a barbershop in Chicago, and someone said to him, ain't nothing gonna make me take that unless my life is on the line. And you want to scream, your life is on the line. How can we penetrate some of these communities? Because you've got the anti-vaxxer communities, and then you have, some pockets of African Americans because of long distrustful history with the medical community. What do we have to do at this point?
We have to understand the various factors that implicate or influence human behavior. I'm going to make this very plain. I don't have any tolerance for the anti-vaxxer movement. And I don't have any tolerance for politicians who befriend, who cozy up to, who become allies of that movement. I actually see that as another example of the proliferation of white supremacy, because in particular, they are targeting communities of color, and they are targeting the historical injustices, the atrocities that communities of color have experienced as a way to play on their vulnerabilities. Outside of the anti-vax movement, you have people who have questions, and you have people, unfortunately, who have become susceptible to the conspiracy theories. We continue to walk in compassion. We continue to walk in love, but we continue to be very direct. Wherever misinformation and disinformation exists, we who know the science, we who have been vaccinated, we have to speak up, and we have to be willing to speak up continually, and we have to speak up emphatically, because like you said, Tiffany, lives are, those who are predominantly still getting sick are overwhelmingly the unvaccinated.
So, Doc, how were those words misconstrued?
I stand by everything I said in that clip. We have facts, Bishop. I can tell you what I've witnessed with my own eyes in Newark, New Jersey, how those in the anti-vaxxer movement descended upon the city of Newark, how they protested, how they handed out flyers that had half-truths, misinformation, disinformation, how they sought to inflame the history around the untreated syphilis study that happened in Tuskegee. I can tell you what happened in the past couple of weeks in Brooklyn. A very, very respected public health colleague of mine, Dr. Uche Blackstock, she retweeted it again today, how people associated with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. were there handing out flyers at a festival in Brooklyn that draws the black and brown community in particular, telling people, don't trust this science. Don't trust this vaccine because of medical racism. She confronted them. And when she confronted both a gentleman and a woman, you know what they told her? Well, I believe it, so I'm going to do it. Have no regard for black lives. No regard for humanity. So my words are being construed because, one, people are willfully lying. My words are being construed, two, because people are walking in willful and knownful ignorance. And three, because of the larger denigration of black lives. That's why.
Well, can I just...
Congressman Carson.
Well, can I say one thing?
You were there during the insurrection on January the 6th. You were there in the insurrection during January the 6th, correct? I think you're muted.
Absolutely. In fact, I was texting Chairman Dash as it was happening. I texted him the day before a video as they were gathering around the steps of the Capitol, just giving him a sense of the environment and the vibe. And then the following day, I sent him a video of me in my office after being directed to go to my office. And of course, a gentleman that was apprehended had my name on a list, and they caught this same gentleman with explosives at the Capitol. So I
But
appreciate
how does that make you feel hearing all this misinformation that it wasn't an insurrection, that it was peaceful, it was only a handful, and this is what Tucker Carlson is pushing, this is what a lot of Republicans are pushing, but you were there, you know? And I think that needs to be understood from the black, the brown, and the white community to understand that you have white millionaires on Fox News who I know 99% of all of them are vaccinated while they teach other people not to get vaccinated. That I know that when January the 6th took place, at first they took it serious, and now it's all about politics and manipulation.
he has pledged to campaign against sitting members of Congress who basically oppose his agenda, who are basically critical of him. We thought that they would get some relief and some boldness once he left office, but they're afraid because they're going to be running in new congressional districts, as well as having the threat of having Donald Trump support someone to primary. And I just think and I'm disappointed when I see so many black folks. And of course, you know, historically there's some trauma there and some suspicions, but I'm suspicious of those folks who are promoting this anti-vaccination agenda. It just seems to me that some people are being paid off, and the people at the bottom who are doing the footwork on this are in the dark as to what their leaders are really getting underneath the table.
Well, can I just say something real fast? So, when you listen to what Dr. Chris said, it was very clear and it was very intelligent. So, what I notice about the way the masses are controlled is about narrative. It's always about trying to control a narrative. Even when it goes back to what happened when they, ran up in the house. Now they're trying to make it like it didn't happen, so it's not remembered a certain way. They're trying to kill the narrative. And what's great about the fact that when we come together, we can still push the truthful narrative. So what happens when you're clear? You become dangerous. And the only thing you can do with an intelligent person is manipulate the people that are receiving that intelligent person and make them think, because that's what I was saying. I'm not usually with the man. You know what I'm saying? You're not you. No one here is usually with the system, but this ain't about the system. This is about logic. If you want to go outside, then you have to be accountable for if you get sick, you can spread it. Unless you're willing to stay inside, then it's only right if you're going to go to work, be around other people, touch other people's kids, all of that you're safe and you do everything that you can if you care about other people. But again, what I don't understand is, number one, Trump and his whole family took the vaccine after he told everyone not to.
That's the hypocrisy.
No, it's narrative. The question is, logically, without emotion, why would he do it and tell everyone that believes in him not to do it and support that? Sometimes I honestly think he's a double agent. Sometimes, like, all the people that are supposed to support him, he's killing them. He's putting their lives in jeopardy. And then sometimes I just look at, how at least in this moment, we got Congress, we got the Senate, he got Biden elected. He got him elected. He brought us together. There would be no commission if it wasn't for him. Can he not know that he's bringing intelligent people together? I just almost sometimes feel like he's doing it on purpose. Can he not know that he's leading his people, that he's basically putting them on the Titanic? And on another note, again, I got this rule, like if I'm on a plane If the pilot doesn't panic, I'm not panicking. But if I see him panic, then I'm gonna panic. If the pilot takes the vaccine, I'm taking that shit. You know, and if I'm sick, it just seems like more of a chance not to take it. To believe in a conspiracy, logically, that has nothing really to support it but conspiracy, makes no logical sense to believe in that over something that you have that's, you know, factual. That you see people that told you not to take it get sick and then also take it. You know? And you're really banking on the fact that you're not one out of that 100 that get it bad. But if you are, I've seen a lot of people that are not vaccinated on their deathbed saying they wish they were. And I would also look at that, just logically.
Wow. Wow. I want to add something really, really quickly to what Mr. Dash said. If you look throughout American history, and this is why I called out white supremacy. White supremacy, like all systems of oppression, racism, sexism, classism, racialized capitalism, seeks to pit winners versus losers. And too often, those in poorer communities are on the losing end of that equation. If you look at the pockets of people who are unvaccinated and look at the pockets of people that the misinformation and the disinformation are being targeted against, it's against the vulnerable, whether they are the white and vulnerable, black and vulnerable, Latino and vulnerable, LGBTQ and vulnerable, young and vulnerable, Republican and vulnerable, Democrat and vulnerable. And so it is very, very necessary for, I just said this morning on Twitter and I said it last night, public health has to stand up and assert the science, the facts and data, and people first. We have to, because if we do not, there are people who are going to lose their lives around something that is prevented.
And
Do you have a question, Pastor Patrick?
I do. I have a question. I would like to say, to start off, Dr. Chris, you being a part of the data in so many ways, you are an example. And so for someone to come up against what you've already experienced and what you're an expert in, which you are America's public health expert, we appreciate everything that you have done. Numbers are not lying. And as the numbers are being stated, it is one who is intelligent not to see those numbers. We are a part of those numbers because you lost your father, my father-in-law, my kid's grandfather, my husband's father, to coronavirus. So in that, an example of following the data as your dad was a citizen.
Right.
And that is applaudable. And so I don't think Tucker Carlson really understands who he came after and what the story is behind you. There's a story behind you that he didn't consider. And so with that, I'd like to ask you a question that was posed to Dr. Fauci. And the question is, do you think we could have eradicated polio or defeated the measles if you had Fox News night after night warning people about these vaccine issues that are just bombing?
No.
What would you say to that?
I say it would be very doubtful. No. The propaganda that is coming out of right-wing and conservative media is at an all-time high. And it is anti-humanity. I want to say that. And Bishop brought up a very good point, and Mr. Dash brought up a very good point. You have millionaires. You have people who are those with power benefiting from science, but manipulating questions which are legitimate, fears and concerns which are legitimate, and other people are going to lose their lives. So if we had a Fox News, or even if we had a Facebook and other social media platforms that allow just flat out lies to be told to the American public night after night, we would not have conquered polio. We would not have eradicated measles. Look, measles is resurging because of this anti-vaxxer movement. You have pockets of measles outbreaks throughout the country. And that's why it is so important. I just want to applaud the governor of Utah, because I want people to understand, this is not a Democrat and a Republican issue, okay? This is a people first issue. But unfortunately, there are far too many conservatives who are either silent or willfully peddling garbage. But the governor of Utah the governor of Utah, and said, what is coming from these talking heads, these pundits on right-leaning cable news needs to stop because it's killing people. Look at what's happening in Arkansas. Look at what's happening in Florida. Florida and Arkansas are the hotspots in this nation right now. It was reported 1 in 5 cases is coming out of Florida. Arkansas has had a significant jump in its cases, and it perhaps only has about 35 or over 35% of its population that's fully vaccinated. There are rural communities where as little as 20% are fully vaccinated. So what we see is we see the detriment of that rhetoric, and it's got to stop.
Well, Mr. Dash, you're always the subject of misinformation. I mean, you were called a liar on Juneteenth. And I think one of the things about the commission is that we're constantly fighting for the narrative, we're fighting for our characterization, and we're fighting for our dignity, because once the false information gets out of there, people try to label you. How do you feel about that, being labeled a liar on Juneteenth?
Well, you know, it's disappointing to say it, but I'm used to it. You know, it's just crazy sometimes that people do it so much that they're comfortable actually doing it in front of people and even doing it with a judge. But, you know, if you listen to my records, I always say, all I need is a fair one. But nobody wants to fight fair, you know? And when you tell the truth, people that don't tell the truth, that's their weapon, the lie. And all they can do is make other people think. Like, that's why when they started talking, I was like, they know exactly what they're dealing with, because now they're just trying to make people not listen to her and discredit her. Because think about it, like, that's all. Why would anyone try to discredit me? And all I try to do is help and give and fight for love and enlightening our people. And you look at the people that try to discredit me. They're usually the ones that are making money for another culture, but they're making the money for the ultra culture off of our culture. They're the ones that are getting patted the back the most by the other culture. And then those are the ones that get celebrated the most by the very people that they're selling out, because they're getting patted on the back by another culture. And that's the game that's been played. That's the manipulation. And that's why, you know, a lot of people get uncomfortable, because most people are uncontested, because they're bluffing. They have no army, but they have to pretend they do. Illusion, fluff, all of that stuff is a big form of war. Making someone think you got guns that you don't. You know? And what they're trying to do now is that, they know you got the guns. And when I say the guns, the intelligence, let's not get it twisted.
Right. Yes,
you know?
that's right.
Meaning that you can break it down intelligently. A unapologetic black woman that's done every kind of schooling traditionally that they've done, that actually doesn't usually trust the bigger system, usually fighting against it, but on this one is just dealing with the truth. And that's why I had to respect you for it. And again, you know what's crazy is, if these numbers go back up, then that's another lockdown. Then that's going to mess with the money. So I just don't get this shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you don't deal with this, the very thing that you're saying you're trying to protect, you're going to collapse. You want to be out working, but you can't work if everybody's sick. Nobody's coming out.
That's right.
Can I tie something together real quick?
Please do, Senator, please.
I want to tie something that Brother Dame and Brother Congressman Carson just mentioned. So Dame earlier mentioned how situations and issues have forced people from across the country to come together to start working together and start kind of move our communities forward, right? So you have this collaboration, this collaborative community building, be it if it's virtual or in person or on the grassroots level, right? But then Congressman Carson also mentioned that in many states across the country, some of my Republican colleagues are concerned that they're going to get primary, be it if they're in the Congress or if they're in the General Assembly, if they're not in alignment with the Trump agenda, right? So let's take a step back. When we talk about tools, what's being used for further division. So the folks that are coming together, organizing to move for greater diversity, moving for more civil rights, moving for better health care, and etc. To cause greater division, they're using vaccination as a political football, and even something like critical race theory, right? We talk about that. Those two issues right there, and I'm dealing with an issue right now with our own Republican Attorney General on critical race theory. What can we as a party use that will cause further division, further confusion in not just the black community, but in the low-income, poor communities to strike fear? It's fear-mongering. Let's strike fear because the clock is ticking. Because what's getting ready to happen is that 22 is coming right around the corner. And these elections for the House and for the Senate is going to set up the stage for 2024, the next presidential cycle.
That's right.
So for me, I'm seeing it, I'm trying to step back and look at it from the political landscape to see what's the play, what's the tool that they're trying to use, and what's the ultimate goal that they're trying to reach. And to me, I think they're setting the stage for that next presidential campaign.
So what's the tool they're using against you, Dr. Chris? What's the motive? They don't want people vaccinated. They want more black and brown people to die. They want more division. What is it? Because I see a difference.
They want more poor people to die. It's about people that don't have money, black or white.
Right. I was just going to say, too often we see people in power, especially people who are wielding corrupt power, try to manipulate these false differences between us. So we're all in the human race, right? Ethnicity is real. Ethnicity should be celebrated. But what we see happening is we have more in common. But demagogues, overt politicized factors and groups seek to amplify, seek to increase that we are different. And when there are so many similarities that we're facing, we all have families that we love, and we don't want to see those families destroyed. We all want access to opportunity. We want to be able to be economically prosperous. But as long as the powerful and the elite really get ahead by keeping the masses down, we see if someone comes along that says, look, masses, let me share power with you. Let me share education with you about how to keep yourself safe and about how to actually flourish. Then you see those corrupt influences flare up. So yes, I believe people have allied themselves with an anti-science agenda because it fits with their political agenda. Expressly what the senator said. Expressly what he said. Because science can't be disputed. It's science.
Can we play real quick exactly what Pepper said? Real quick,
Yes.
Can we play that?
Now they're telling us anyone who resists mandatory vaccination is a white supremacist. This is the talking point of the moment. You know that because it was just on MSNBC from their in-house doctor. Watch.
I don't have any tolerance for the anti-vaxxer movement. And I don't have any tolerance for politicians who befriend, who cozy up to, who become allies of that movement. I actually see that as another example of the proliferation of white supremacy, because in particular, they are targeting communities of color, and they are targeting the historical injustices, the atrocities that communities of color have experienced as a way to play on their vulnerabilities.
Imagine someone who would say something so provably untrue, factually untrue, so irresponsible and so divisive, having a medical license in this country. That person does. Something's very wrong with our system.
He called you MSNBC's in-house doctor.
Yes, he did. That's someone who has a love for people. That's someone who has love for humanity.
You're extremely intelligent. That's what you're an extremist
Thank you,
at.
my brother. And you all know this to be true. Everyone on this virtual live today, you know this to be true. I will speak to anyone. I've spoken to small white church communities in New Jersey I've spoken to blacks in Indiana. I've spoken to blacks
Spoken to Kanye West.
in this nation, Kanye West. But I'm just saying, I will go wherever people are.
What I'm trying to say, and I've always said it, once you become a truth teller, people come at you. So you are a truth teller at a professional level. You're now in the big league. Me and you are, and they talking about us in the same places. You know?
That's right.
And you're like the Dame Dash of medicine. And you know, that's what's happening. You know, and you have all the credentials, and no one can out talk you about the truth. You know, when you're right, period. And the logic makes sense. You break, like the way, because I'm telling you, I remember when the bishop told me,
war on injustice.
listen, when the bishop told me you were in the trials, I was like, you with that? I was concerned. And I took the time, and it's crazy because we're editing that up as we speak, but we took the time to really talk to you. And I really wanted at least the people that pay attention to my platform to be able to hear what I heard that made me actually feel a little safer about taking it and actually making it where I'd be irresponsible if I did not. But a lot of people don't.
You'd be irresponsible if you did not. That's very, very powerful.
Right.
Very, very powerful.
Right. I mean, that's how I looked at it. I'm diabetic, pregnant wife, and I have children, and I'm around people. You know, I'm social. I work. I'm outside, but in my bubble, too much outside, you know? And also, we need to actually get this word of truth on the road. So we need, to me, I'm like, yo, if I'm going to go out there, I'm going to take what I got to.
I think what's so powerful about what Mr. Dash is saying, if you remember, Dr. Chris, I was in L.A. at his house.
Yes.
I was at his house, and he's got it all on video.
Yes.
And me and him were joking on you, calling you a guinea pig.
Yeah. Yes.
So we were there from the beginning. So and then I even said, when I asked you, why did you volunteer? You said because of Daddy.
Yes.
And Daddy could not have survived all those years with HIV, all those years with having no lungs, without being on the edge of the new medicines and technology was out there failing. And he lived to be an old man.
Yes.
I mean, you know, it's under 79 is old, you know?
Yeah.
But the thing is, Mr. Dash was there from start, from Jump Street, you know? He was the first one who told me, I think we're going to be inside for a while. Because we was Gospel was supposed to come to L.A. in March. He said, I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm telling you, it's coming. He's got speaking to people in China. I remember you were speaking to people in China. He's like, look, this is going to get worse. He said, you know, and so forth. So you were there from day one, and that's what I believe one of the primary functions of the commission is to come up against misinformation, regardless of how big that Goliath is. And every Goliath that comes is just going to build a stronger movement. And I'm starting to really believe, well, not believe, but I know that white supremacy uses class warfare.
Yes.
Even among us. They use poor whites to fight for their slaves. And just like all these people who are anti-vaccine, I guarantee you, 99% they vaccinated. Everybody on Fox News is vaccinated. But they're telling their constituents don't do this. And I guarantee you, everybody, because it's also a war of the educated and the uneducated. And the educated, even if they disagree, they know to go with the statistics. And the statistics is, if you are vaccinated, you are better off. And we know, I mean, come on, I'm in ministry. I know people who are vaccinated who get sick, but they don't die. But if you're unvaccinated, hey, come on.
I just want to give some quick stats for people, because I know you know. I need everyone to know this. Coronavirus, I want to dispel some really quick things. Coronavirus is not the flu. If you look at the CDC's data from 2019 to about 2020, the flu was responsible for anywhere from tens of thousands of deaths, so 20,000 plus to a max of 40, maybe even 60,000 deaths. over 600,000 Americans have died from coronavirus. I need people to understand that. In 2020, it was the third leading cause of death, only behind heart disease and cancer. That is unheard of, okay? And this is something that we did not know of before 2019. That's why it's called COVID-2019. It means coronavirus is a family of viruses. This novel coronavirus was identified in 2019. This is not a common flu. I want people to understand that.
Meeting
It
is
my
being recorded.
professional duty to read through scientific information, to translate it for masses, and to make policy practices and norms off of it. Okay, so I was already doing that. I went the extra step to be involved because of my father. And like you said, he lived because of the advances in science. A lot of Black people right now are alive because of the advances in science. And so I want people to understand the science was not manipulated. This science is a different science, but it was not totally new. That's the other thing. There's just so many blatant falsehoods that are being taught that you can go to decades. There were people working on messenger RNA for decades. In the last decade, there were significant advances before coronavirus ever came on the scene. That's how scientists knew how to design this vaccine. It's going to fundamentally change clinical research. It's going to be a game changer. And the last thing that I want to say, this notion that coronavirus is innocuous, meaning it's harmless, that, oh, you can just go about your way. You have no way to predict who's going to get exposed to coronavirus and just have no symptoms whatsoever. Who's going to get exposed to coronavirus and have mild illness? Who's going to get exposed to coronavirus and get severe illness or even die? You have certain predisposing factors, but you as an individual, you have no way of knowing that. You have people now who have cognitive deficits from having coronavirus. This is nothing to play with. And we have powerful tools that are safe and efficacious, meaning proven in the lab, and effective, meaning proven in the real world. 161 million plus Americans are fully vaccinated. That is unheard of. You take Tylenol, you take ibuprofen, you take Pepto-Bismol, you take prescriptions prescribed by your doctor. Yes, this is no different. This is a process of science coming up with a novel intervention to keep people safe. And I'm not going to shut up about it.
So what instinctively, for those prominent Black figures who display intelligence, who are articulate, many who are educated, who have large followings, what is their motivation? Is it ignorance on their part? If you have a gut check instinctively, how many of those folks you think are being manipulated by larger forces, and how many of those folks are just simply ignorant and don't know, and they're being validated and reaffirmed through?
Excellent question, Congressman. Let me just break it down this way. And this is what was so important on MSNBC.
Sorry, Bishop.
Tiffany Cross was talking about the multiple factors that contribute to a lack of vaccine confidence. I have spent an overwhelming part of this pandemic validating the fears, the concerns, the suspicions in Black and brown folks of clinical research because of medical racism, because of medical apartheid, right? Because of not only past atrocities like the untreated syphilis study in Tuskegee, or like Mississippi appendectomies, or like Henrietta Lacks, because of how your mama and your daddy is treated when you go to the hospital today, right? So I spent a considerable amount of time. So it is not unfounded. It is not irrational that people question. It is irrational that once the data has been presented, that people willfully ignore it, manipulate it, or lie about it. And unfortunately, we still have people in our own community who are susceptible to that. And I will continue to speak with folks. And like I said it on Tiffany's show, I will speak with compassion and I will speak with love. But what I won't do is when I know you know better, but you still are peddling lies, I won't stand for that. I won't, because people are dying. And I think we have to have a critical mass, Congressman, a critical mass in our community of people standing up, telling their personal stories, telling their stories of loved ones that they lost, telling their stories about the science. That's why the HBCU presidents came out in support of the vaccine trials. That's why, because they know the truth. And they know also the truth of racism. So they don't want their people to be manipulated. So I break it down that way. And I will say this again, and I will say this clearly. To those who know to do better, and you still don't do better, and you're leading people astray, shame on you.
I wanted to have closing words with each person speaking. I want to ask you one last question, Doc. If President Biden called on you, what would you say that is needed now concerning where we are with the variant and so forth?
I'd say President Biden, we need a new America, and a new America starts with transparent communication. A new America starts with fierce accountability. This pandemic is winnable. This pandemic is not just a pandemic of the unvaccinated, although the unvaccinated are disproportionately the ones getting sick and dying. But this pandemic has fundamentally changed everybody's life. So while this variant is proliferating, we actually need to double down. We need to double down and get totally over this hill by taking the vaccine to people, taking truth to people, taking knowledge to people, and standing up like the Surgeon General, standing up like President Biden, standing up like the governor from Utah, and continuing to hold people accountable and to speak truth, because that's how we'll overcome the variant, that's how we'll overcome the pandemic, and that's how we'll ultimately build a new America.
Senator Eddie?
Well, I'll tell them that I want to see Dr. Chris in the White House. I'll be very honest with you. I think it'll make myself and others more comfortable knowing that there's someone that we know that's cut from the same cloth that we're from, that's going to speak truth to power, that's going to represent us when the doors are closed and the cameras are off. So I would say President Biden needs to bring Dr. Chris to the table inside the White House for further discussions about the coronavirus.
Powerful.
Bless you, my brother.
Congressman?
Yeah, I just want to say that, people of goodwill, black professionals, non-professionals, would have to know someone who has the credibility and the experience of a Dr. Chris Purnell would not put her professional reputation on the line to willfully mislead folks, especially black folks.
Right.
Bishop, as a military man, before a nation invades another nation, they start a misinformation and disinformation campaign to soften the hearts and minds of would-be allies or even the people within that nation to justify the invasion. And I think that what we're seeing right now with Dr. Purnell is a deliberate attempt to soften the hearts and minds of those people that she continues to win over to justify an attack against the sister. But they're out of luck because she has not only a family and the commission, she has a global support system that won't stand for it. So, thank you.
Beyond powerful, I honestly believe in the fullness of my heart, being a spiritual man and being a man of wisdom. I believe even when Mr. Dash is attacked, I don't believe it's so much the black man or the black person attacking him more than the people behind that person. Oh. And I think that's the thing. There's so many people benefiting from making it look like another black professional is hurting another black person. But it's actually the person behind that person or the people behind that person. And I'm convinced that I believe hip-hop's been sent from above because hip-hop is the only thing that really made white culture embrace black culture. But even though we are the authors and the designers, we're not always the benefactors. But I believe that's going to change because that has to be given back to the creators. even to the point where for the longest time you could play in the NFL for years, and then after you retire, you end up broke. But we have too many artists that end up broke because they haven't come together to realize, hey, we built this system. Now we need to get the whole, and that's why I respect Dame Dash Studios. We need to have the platform to own the platform where we are controlling the message. So that right there definitely encourages me. Apostle Pastor, your closing words?
My closing words, I want to thank you guys for this platform because it's very needed, very necessary. As I go out, I still wear a mask. And it's amazing how many people will look at you like you've lost your mind for still wearing a mask. And they don't take the time to think about there are still children who are not able to get vaccinated. My kids are vaccinated, my husband and I are vaccinated, but we still have a baby who is about to turn 10 who has not been vaccinated because there isn't one available for her age group yet. But I want to thank you, Dr. Apostle Chris, because people don't know that you are a doctor, but it is also a calling.
That's right.
You are a sent one. And so what's so powerful is you get a double dose of a public health expert and someone who is sent to do this. So I'm definitely encouraged by your knowledge, your wisdom. I know that you're going to take America where it needs to be. I'm amazed, and I know that when you do meet President Biden, he's going to be amazed at how many things he's been pondering upon that you already have the answers to. So again, thank you for this platform, you guys. This is a blessing.
I love you, my sister.
Once again, what I meditate on, and as we come together and we strategize, we understand. I'm a very prophetic person. I definitely believe in truth. I stand on truth, but I also see how the Black and brown community has been manipulated through white supremacy, through religion, through different forms of religion, not just Christianity, because I have many brothers who have been to Mecca who told me personally they experienced racism in Mecca, and you have a national following, you have a world following, and that is a point of power and influence. But for you to have the commission to weigh in on such a divisive issue that's within the Black and brown community, that takes a person to be very brave. So once again, Mr. Dash is going to close out, but I want to personally thank you for being that brave individual. The commission was your vision. It was your dream. We all got to go out there and order our commission shirts, our CEOs. We have to support Dame Dash Studios because he has a vision for the Black, brown, and any community that wants to support change and support unity. Mr. Dash, in the outpost.
Well, what I really want Dr. Chris to understand is not to be triggered when they start to talk about you, because it's going to happen a lot more. Expect it. My thing is, when I know what they're going to do, I brace my face so when I catch that punch, it doesn't hurt so bad, but I'm always prepared to punch back. So this is what we know. Your information is truthful and it's honest. It doesn't really it's not an emotional thing until you're telling the truth. But as far as the data, and a lot of times, us as a culture, we just don't get the data. And we need to make it cool to looking for the data. And it's not usual that someone that can give us the data comes like you, a Black woman, unapologetic, and very truthful. You speak our language. You can break it down into layman's terms, which is a very dangerous thing to people that are winning or think they're winning by misleading people. So you're a truth teller in a major way about some very important things. And you have all the artillery to win. The only way they can get at you is to get you emotional when they start messing with you. But you know it's coming. We all know it's coming. But what they don't know is that we're here with you, that you do have a platform, and that there is a commission. They don't understand it yet. And we don't even care, because look, we doing this live. We want the smoke because we just want to tell the truth. We don't want to scare nobody. We want people to be comfortable. But when you don't know what's going on, that gives you anxiety. at least you could tell us what's going on and make a decision from there.
Right.
You know? So I want to thank the whole commission, because no matter what it's been, we're all going to get into what's perceived as a war or a battle. But as of yet, we all are there for each other because we're all fighting for love. At the end of the day, it's about peace first, war last. But if you come messing with what we love, then we going to do what we got to do to win and protect. But peace first. So we want to coexist. We want the whole world to be healthy. And if you are going to fight, even though nobody really understands what you're fighting for, fight fair. But if not, there will be a platform to tell the truth, which will be us. And all we got to do is stick together. We have to build the stage so we can perform on it. The bigger the stage is, the more performing we can do. And it got to look cool. Everybody on here look cool. Everybody talks cool. You got your cornrow. I haven't even seen that look. You look like you about to, you ready for, you know, I love it. I love all that, you know. And, you know, we have a senator and a congressman that can also figure out how to bring it to the attention and start drafting some laws that reflect some of the things we're talking about. Bring awareness to the things we're dealing with firsthand. So we got everything here, you know, and that's all we got to do. When they start talking, they're going to talk. They're going to come for all of us. They're going to try to discredit all, blah, blah, we already heard we're human. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Period. They've been trying to discredit me for years. Why? Just because I tell the truth. The more they try to discredit us, the more famous we get. So keep doing it. Just don't let it trigger you. Embrace it. And you're not looking that triggered to me. You look very calm, cool, collected. You look.
You know me.
If I was against you, I'd be scared. That's why I'm on your side.
I'm a David. Goliaths don't scare me.
So like I said,
I'm a David. Goliaths don't scare me. I love all of y'all. Yahweh bless you all. Yahweh bless you all.
so that's all I have to say. I love y'all. We're gonna edit this up. It's gonna be on my live. You know, it's gonna go in history. I would love again to see any sort of debate against Tucker Carlson or any or any anti-vaxxer. You know, just so we can lay it down. You know, your facts versus the doctor's facts, and then you make the judgment from there.
You said Pat.
And Pirate Pat, that's one of his little nicknames, Baby Dusko, he said Pat. So that means that's right. You know what I mean? Pat. So we leading with love.
Pat.
And that's what we fighting for, fearlessly. But it's always about love. Don't be safe, y'all. We ain't trying to hurt nobody. All we want to do is tell the truth and make your life easier, safer, more love.
He's gonna be a judge.
But you got to protect it. Love y'all. Love the commission. Everybody. Senator, Congressman, Bishop, Doctor, Pastor. All y'all got some Congress, everything. I love the front names for everything. Let's go. Pat.
If you want another amazing video with the one and only Dame Dash, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.